Look at these guys, how a few cockroaches helped them steal $50 million in cash. They first painted the cockroaches with different colors, then 5 kilometers away from the vault, opened the vault's complicated money pipeline. Then they put the different colored cockroaches into each of the pipes. When the cockroaches were crawling towards the vault, they anonymously gave the vault manager, Mary, with a cake. Mary received the cake thinking it was from a suitor. Then she distributed the cake to her colleagues. At that moment a colleague outside said that her car had been cut up by the time Mary had followed the police to finish the accident. When she returned, she was already off duty. The remaining half of the cake was locked up in the vault. The next day, when Mary re-entered the vault, found cockroaches crawling all over the half of the cake, so they called a pest control company. At this point, Jack and Mike, disguised themselves as pest control officers, entered the vault. When they saw that the cockroaches on the cake were pink, they were able to determine which pipe was the one that led to the vault. Next, Big Smith took his brother Little Smith to the prison to find Adam the master blaster, because next they needed Adam to do a precise microblast on the vault pipe. Adam said, "I've got 4 months before I'm released from prison, as long as you can let me out of the prison without being noticed. Leave the prison for 5 hours, not to mention microbursts, even quantum blasting. I can do it too." So Smith drove his car into a convenience store on purpose. He was then sent to prison for refusing to pay. Next, he was to assist Adam in the prison. He will leave the prison unnoticed for 5 hours because Smith was disabled in his left hand, so he applied to be the prison doctor's assistant. On the day of the operation, Adam went to the tap. He drank 5 pounds of tap water. When the warden came to inspect the dining room at noon, in front of him, he threw up all the food he had eaten at lunchtime. Adam was then taken to the infirmary. When he got to the infirmary, Adam said he needed to go to the toilet. The prison doctor took a look at him, so he asked young Smith to accompany Adam to the toilet. When they got to the toilet, Adam took out the tools he had hidden in the ceiling. Then he quickly pried open the toilet partition, slipped out through the inside passage, took out the planks of wood he had prepared in advance. The planks were mounted on the chassis of the truck. The two men then hid in the boards. When the guards checked the chassis with a mirror, didn't see them. The two men managed to get out of the prison. At this point, the prison doctor saw that Adam hadn't returned. He decided to go out and check, but the door to the infirmary was locked automatically. It turns out that when Adam was leaving, he had asked his cellmate to cause trouble in the prison on purpose. Prison director fears inmate escape after discovery, hastily barricaded every door of the prison. By now Adam had arrived at the vault's pipes. He was going to gently blow up the other end of the pipe. Then he would use a hoover to suck out the cash from inside. See how these guys used to hoover. Sucked $50 million of cash out of the vault to fill the vault with cash. On the day of the race, the Smith brothers blew up the Circuits Communications base station. This resulted in the card machines not being able to connect to the internet. Customers could only transact with cash, as buckets and buckets of cash from the transport pipeline to the vault. The vault is already overflowing with cash. At this point, Adam, the master blaster, made a mini blast bomb, puts the bomb into the transport barrel. Then he shoved the barrel into the pipe leading to the vault. The barrel reaches the other end of the vault. With a loud bang, the head of the pipe was blown off. At this point, the smoke from the explosion followed the pipe up to the cashier. The staff saw the explosion and alerted security. When the 2 security guards came to check on the building, they saw white smoke coming out of the ventilation room. They opened the door and saw that the caretaker was smoking. It turned out to be Jack. To cover up the smoke from the explosion, deliberately asked his teammates to wait for the security guards to inspect. After the security guard was sent away, they hooked up a giant hoover to the pipe. Immediately after, the money was sucked out of the vault. In just 10 minutes, the vault was almost empty. Then Jack and Mike took the transport truck, pulling a huge load of money out. But when they got to the front door, the door wouldn't open. Then Jack came over and operated the mechanism, and the door was opened. Then the Smith brothers put the money in Jack's car, and Jack cleaned up all the fingerprints they had left inside. Then the men quickly split up and left the scene. At this point, the warden didn't know the 2 Adams have escaped from prison, so the 2 men had half an hour to return to the prison. Adam's cellmates were trying to help him stall for time. Tied up 2 prison guards in the prison, he kept confronting the warden, and his men blocked the cameras with sesame paste. Then a dinner plate blocked the window from the inside. The warden couldn't see what was going on inside. He didn't dare to make a move. At this point, his men took the pencils from the guards, takes out the pencil and wraps it in a napkin. Then he inserted the pencil lead into the socket, ignites the paper towel. Then he picked up the bin and pointed it towards the smoke alarm. The warden heard the fire alarm go off in the dining room. He was in a panic. He had to call the firemen to come and put out the fire. At this point, Adam and Smith changed into firemen's clothes. While the fire engine was pulling out of the gate, they snuck onto the fire truck. When the fire engine arrived at the prison, they got out of the car quietly and quickly sneak into the infirmary. When the firemen opened the door to the dining room, they rushed in and saw, "This is it?" But they did eventually put out the small fire. Who knew that the next day Adam would see the news? Jack had given back the $50 million they'd worked so hard to steal. These guys went so far as to use an oversized Hoover. $50 million in cash was sucked out of the vault. When the police arrived at the vault to investigate, they found that a small hole had been blown in the money transport pipe. The police followed the pipe to the scene of the crime. The area had been cleaned up without a trace. The police then followed the clues and identified Adam and Smith serving prison sentences. But the two men were serving prison sentences on the day of the theft. Such a perfect alibi. How did they do it? So the police approached the prison governor. Says two men escaped from prison that day and were involved in a burglary. When the warden heard that, don't talk nonsense. Not to mention the two of them in my prison security system. Even a fly couldn't get out. Please go home. However, by the end of the night, Big Smith dumped the car with $50 million in it at a petrol station. The next day, when Adam saw the news of the stolen cash being recovered, feel very angry. He didn't know why Big Smith to give back the $50 million they had worked so hard to steal. He decided to go after Big Smith when he got out of prison. When the police learned of the situation, they found the owner of the racetrack. But the owner said the money was already back. Let's not talk about it anymore. It turned out that the owner of the racetrack had already received $50 million in compensation from the insurance company. After that, the owner destroyed the book of the day's income, so no one knew the exact amount of money stolen that day, and the owner made $50 million. 4 months later, Adam and Smith Jr. were both released from prison. Adam was about to settle his score with Big Smith. A large red shovel was suddenly placed on his doorstep. Adam took the shovel. He went under the red autumn trunk and dug, and there was a big bag of money underneath. It turned out that the door couldn't be opened on the day the money was delivered. Big Smith had deliberately blocked the sensors with a small sign in advance in order to stall his teammates. When they weren't looking, he hid a few bags of banknotes. Then he threw the money in the trash. When the trash is sent to the landfill, Big Smith will then locate and dig up the money. Based on the GPS location he put in there ahead of time, he finds the money and digs it up. Then Adam's cellmate was released from prison. They also received a bag of money, and even Mary, who was indirectly helping them at the time, also received an unexpected box of money. Shortly afterwards, Little Smith asked Big Smith, "I can understand you doing this for safety, but you're so meticulous. How can you be sure that the police have given up their investigation?" Big Smith said, "Before I planned this operation, I deliberately disconnected my phone on default. The police were listening to your movements. They've been quietly paying my phone bill. Until a week ago, my phone was finally disconnected again. This means that the police have completely abandoned their investigation." When Little Smith heard that, "He's my own brother. You're really good at this. The next time they take the money, they'll be able to spend it and have fun with it."